It's really important to be realistic about your brand and your point of view and what store makes sense for you. So if you're pitching to a store that would never make sense, then they're probably not going to respond or they'll say no. So you wouldn't want to keep pursuing that because maybe it's not the right fit.
You're listening to Thrive by Design, business, marketing, and lifestyle strategies for your jewelry brand to flourish and thrive. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Thrive by Design podcast, episode 168. Today, I have a wonderful interview with a really amazing new friend that I made, Delia Folk of The Style That Binds Us. Delia is amazing. She is the former buyer for Barney's New York, and she is a fashionista extraordinaire and knows her stuff when it comes to jewelry. She's been working in fashion in the jewelry space for many, many years and is passionate about jewelry. And so in this interview, we talk about not only how to position your brand so that you can get into luxury retail, but we also talk trend and have some fun in the meantime. I met Delia, as you're going to find out in the episode, through a mutual friend, someone who is actually on our panel this week at Flourish and Thrive Live, Aggie Burnett. And I'm super excited because we were trying to meet and we couldn't find a date that actually worked to meet for coffee. And I ended up moderating the Jewelry Independent event this summer. And I'm looking through my notes and I see that Delia is actually on the roster and I was so excited. So we totally hit it off. You're going to be excited because I'm going to have Delia back on the show in a couple of weeks to talk about Fashion Month and jewelry trends that she's seeing in the market, which is going to be awesome. You're going to love it. I hope that as you're listening to this, you are on your way to New York City to join us for Flourish and Thrive Live. And if you aren't coming to New York for Flourish and Thrive Live, then I would absolutely love for you to join us on live stream. Today is the last day that you can get in and get a virtual pass for the event. It is going to be so incredible. We have some amazing speakers. We have an incredible lineup. The theme this year is all about building sales through connection and using your website as your number one selling tool. So we have influencer panels. We have discussions about using video and SEO to drive traffic and sales to your site. And we have so much more. So I am absolutely thrilled. This year is going to be the best Flourish and Thrive Live ever. I am sure of it. So if you haven't gotten your seat and it's not past September 26th when you're listening to this episode, then make sure that you join us with a virtual pass. Today's episode is sponsored by Flourish and Thrive's SOS coaching program. As you've been hearing over the past couple of weeks, we've had some designers on the show who have been, part of our coaching programs over the years at Flourish and Thrive. And it's so fun to watch our designers grow and see their success when they actually get individualized help from us. And this program has been designed specifically to cater towards exactly where you are and what stage you are in your business at this time. And the thing I really love about this program is that it's not a one size fits all program. We work with you on an individualized core path. You get monthly coaching sessions with our coaches. I pop in there and I'm doing 2 group hot seats every single month. And if you're getting the virtual pass, you're going to watch me do some hot seats in action, which is such a blast. And what ends up happening when you can get some eyes on your business that aren't, clouded through the lens of what you're looking through, it helps you kind of not only see clearly, but we can give you step-by-step actions so that you can just literally run with it. And we've seen designers like Kina grow her sales by 400% in just 4 months because she was laying the groundwork for her business for the first part of the year. It's pretty insane. We see designers like Allison who step up and get to the next level and get over their fear of asking for more money for their product. We see designers like Leora getting her business organized and learning how to outsource her production for the first time because her business has grown so much. So there's just so many awesome things that are happening with the designers in this group. And you'll be hearing me chat a lot more over the next few weeks about some of the success stories that we've had. So make sure that you're joining us for our Facebook Lives. And if you're interested in learning more about SOS, head on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/SOS and get your application in because we definitely want to consider you for this program that has changed the lives of so many designers already. So I hope you're in. Head on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/SOS to check out all the details. All right, let's dive into this episode with Delia. Well, today on Thrive by Design, I have a really fun guest. She is so vibrant, and I know you are just going to love her from the get-go, and you're also going to become a huge fan of her podcast. Welcome to the show, Delia Folk. Delia, thanks so much for being here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to be here. And this is a little bit of a funny backstory about how we were kind of recently introduced. I was introduced by our PR expert over here at Flourish and Thrive to a woman named Aggie. Aggie and I met for some drinks. She's like, oh, you should meet this person, and this person. So the next day, like one of the people that she introduced me to was you. And she was telling me about your podcast. And I was, of course, immediately like subscribed to your podcast because I listened to a ton of them. And started listening to one of your shows about jewelry designer named Mateo. And so I'm like, obviously we had a point of connection there, but we were emailing trying to figure out a date to actually meet for coffee and we couldn't figure it out. So you're like, well, my mom's in town. Let's just like wait until she's gone or like wait till this or X, Y, and Z. And we were both attending the Jewelry Independent Summit and I was moderating half of the event. And I didn't even realize you were going to be there until I was doing some research like the day before, the morning of, and your name popped up. And so I emailed you right away and I was like, hey, looks like I'm going to meet you today anyway. And it was so fun. Anyway, that was a great event, didn't you think?
Oh my gosh, I had such a blast. I think the jewelry community is so special and everyone is such a diehard fan. I'm so glad to be a part of it.
One of the things that I really noticed about you immediately, besides your incredible shoes and your amazing fashion sense, is that you have this really vibrant, bubbly personality, which just like makes everyone want to talk to you, I feel like, which is so awesome. But I want to dive in. Tell us a little bit about your background in luxury retail, a little bit about what you're doing now, etc.
Definitely. So I started interning at Versace when I was still in college. And then I just had like this insatiable desire that I said, okay, I'm going to move to New York and work in luxury fashion. And that's what's going to happen. So I had little to no connections to the industry. So I really had to hit the pavement running and make connections and network like crazy. So once I graduated, pretty immediately I got to travel, which was insanely phenomenal. And I'm so thankful. And then in September, I started at Barney's New York as in cosmetics. And then I also worked on the buying team in ready to wear and now jewelry.
That's so awesome. So you're buying jewelry for the 8th floor. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. So it's costume all the way to 18 karat.
Let's say a designer is trying to get into a luxury retailer, something like Barney's or Neiman's or Saks or one of the top tier retailers like that. What are the buyers actually looking for when they're seeking out product like jewelry for their store?
So it varies for every store. What I'm really looking for is we look at product and brands all day, every day. Even when I'm not at work, I'm on Instagram or whatever. So this is kind of my whole life at this point. So I want to have the surprise and delight. I want to see something that I've never seen before that I think our customer is going to go crazy for. So basically, I need to scour the market and I need to be knowledgeable of the market. So even if the brand isn't sold at the retailer that I work at, I still need to know that it exists just so that I know kind of have my pulse on what is everyone doing, what's working, what's not, what direction is the industry moving in. So basically, it's really important to choose a brand for Barney's or whatever retailer. The first thing has to be, wow, this is really special. They could be in infancy stage or they could have been designing for a while. Maybe it's another country. So that would be if they've been designing for a while and maybe they haven't been introduced to the American market. So I think that's one way. And then the other way is to know about my floor and assortment. So what do I represent? And then what are the holes? What are we missing? So that can be both in terms of trends or just costume versus dainty. So let's say if we've exited a vendor, then I'm probably looking to fill that aesthetic with another brand. So then I'm scouring the market, knowing what our metrics are for what brands we could bring in, and then trying to fill that hole.
Okay, that's awesome. So you mentioned exiting a vendor. When would you make that decision to exit a vendor?
Lots of different reasons. It totally depends. Sometimes it's from the vendor's end, sometimes it's on the retailer's end. But basically, let's say if your store is really all about exclusivity and they want to launch brands that are little known only to industry insiders, and then let's say maybe that brand chooses to open distribution, then we are less important to them, the retail store. And then, so that could be one situation where that relationship is let go, or maybe they just unfortunately it's just not working. It doesn't mean that they're not a valid brand, but for some reason, our customer just it's not selling. So maybe we've tried for a couple of seasons, and then hopefully that would be a mutual decision to exit. So it really depends. It's very political lots of times. Sometimes, even if this is our direction of the executive team and how we want to proceed with what brands we carry, sometimes someone always gets a hall pass. So it's never just a clear cut and dry thing.
So there's a lot of variables about why you might discontinue working with the brand, or they might discontinue working with you because they want to open up into bigger doors or different. Okay. So you did say something at Jewelry Independent that I thought was really fascinating. And this was one of the things that really struck me as interesting. And that is that one of the things that you hate the most is when people start dropping all the stores that they're selling at. So talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. So I think a lot of brands somehow they don't understand that a lot of retailers, basically everyone wants to discover the latest and greatest. So you want to be the first to market with this brand and introduce your customer to that. And it's your stamp of approval saying, we believe in this brand. So I am pitched all the time through email and all these different ways, different brands. And so the first question I ask is, okay, send me your lookbook line sheets. And also, what is your current in-store and online distribution? So if they come back to me and I think they think that I want to hear that they're in all these different stores. But what I want to hear is that they're not in a lot of doors, or maybe they're just selling on their website and a couple specialty retailers. So it's this weird thing where they think I want to hear something, but I actually want to hear the opposite.
So that is really interesting to hear because that was the thing that really kind of blew my mind, because I was always told that, like, you want to appear to be like not necessarily bigger than you are, but like you can handle it. And so like having a pretty open distribution or having a lot of stores that you're distributing to would look better to a store like Barney's, but it actually looks worse. That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so you mentioned this already. You look at designer brands all day and your eyes must cross sometimes looking at so much of the product. What are some of the things that get you to say, oh, this brand is ready to sell in a luxury retail store or a retailer like Barney's?
So it can really be even infancy. So if we spot potential, even if they're not necessarily ready, we have the tools, we can guide them. So it can start very early, or maybe we need to see that any store will probably sometimes want to see a couple of seasons to make sure they're not totally changing their vision, that each collection that they produce or new pieces, that it's still in the same vein of their aesthetic, and then also that they're delivering consistent product. So that's one reason why if they say keep in touch in future seasons, sometimes in a couple of seasons, they do pick up the brand, but then a lot of times another retailer will come and swoop in while they're playing the waiting game, and then they've lost out on picking up that great brand. So it is kind of this little seesaw that you're playing, trying to balance the right amount of time. But there have certainly been stories where luxury retailers will even see someone coming out of school in college and say, okay, I'm obsessed, I want to write an order. And they're like, what's an order? Like,
yeah,
how do you, I don't know how to produce that. Yeah.
Have you ever done that with a designer where you just wrote an order with them, like straight out of school or something like that?
Not yet. I haven't really gotten to experience many students. I mean, sometimes like with jewelry, they're getting their GIA certification or things like that. But I really want to tap into the schools more for sure.
Okay, that's awesome. So this is the question that everyone always wants to know. What is your preferred way to be approached? Because everyone's got a different way that they like to be approached? Or in your experience, like we can use the general term like most buyers, because maybe there isn't a specific way. How would you tell someone who's just starting out or trying to, tap into a brand like Barney's and they think that they have the product selection and everything that would work for them to reach out to you or like another buyer who's at a store like that?
Yeah. So I think it definitely depends on the person, but I get from every single social media, it comes from lots of different directions, which doesn't bother me at all. So I get pitched via email, or maybe a brand finds me on Instagram, or I find them and I say, please send lookbook line sheets and your distribution to my email. LinkedIn, I mean, they want to be sold in these luxury retailers. So they're going to be searching for people who work there. So that's how they find us. And so basically, buyers and people who work in general have very little time. So when you open an email, and it depends, maybe someone doesn't read all of their emails, but I'm very type A and I read all of my emails and they have to all at least be opened. And so I need immediately, very easy to see and access, an attached lookbook and line sheet. I feel like a lot of times recently it's been a link. And when I click on the link, it wants me to sign into my Gmail account or some Google account. And then I don't know what my password is. And I'm not going to spend the time to look in my password app and then sign, so they've already lost me. And then also I would like to see your distribution. You can add press. That's always a stamp of approval as well. And then also if you have a website or Instagram. So it needs to all be there, very easy. And a lot of times when I am reviewing something with the executive team or those above me, they also don't have a lot of time. So if it's not easy for them to click, then they're like, well, this is taking too much time and we can't even look at this. So it is extremely important to basically do as much as you can on your end to make it as easy as possible for them to review your brand.
So if you have been listening to the Thrive by Design podcast for a while, or you're in Flourish and Thrive Academy, you've probably heard Robin and I say this like a broken record. Make it easy for your buyers. And it doesn't matter what kind of buyers. If you're selling direct to consumer, or if you're selling to stores, it doesn't matter. The sale needs to be easy, because that's the way to get them to take action. So the next step of this is let's say someone's been trying and they're just not hearing back. Or let's say you see a brand, you're like, well, not yet. We'll wait a season. When is a good, clear sign from a designer to just give up?
Oh, they don't have to give up, but
meaning if they're not getting not give up on their brand, excuse me. Let's clarify that. But to give up on continuing to reach out to you. Is there I don't know. That's sort of a random question, but people always ask that. So I thought I would ask you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Okay. So if we say this aesthetic, maybe we have this aesthetic covered at this time, but maybe in 1 or 2 seasons, what if we exited the brand that we had that aesthetic and maybe we're looking for it? So it could be, I think seasonally is a good time frame. So if the buyer gives you feedback and then you go back to your collection and you actually implement that feedback, and then you can come back and say, oh, hey, said buyer, I have done this, this, and this per your instructions. And I'm so excited to show you what I've done. So I think that sometimes people call me a lot. So the follow-up shouldn't be so quick. We all need time, breathing room. So if you present the collection, the buyer does in fact review and they respond to you saying, right now we can't proceed, but keep in touch in the future. The future probably means let us know as you develop more pieces or a new collection, etc. Not in 3 days, follow up with me.
They're like, not right now, but follow up in the future.
Yeah.
3 days later. Do you like it now?
Yeah.
You said in the future, 3 days is in the future.
Oh my gosh. I know, but I think it's also important for brands to be realistic. So you have to understand what these retailers are all about. You can be a detective and you can see, for example, if a retailer, if all of the product and brands they're pushing are exclusive to them or whatever it is. Maybe they're all about huge costume jewelry or big earrings right now. So it's important for you to understand the lay of the land at that store. What brands do they have? Because if you have a similar aesthetic to what they already have, then they're probably going to say, we can't take you on right now. So basically, it's really important to be realistic about your brand and your point of view and what store makes sense for you. So if you're pitching to a store that would never make sense, then they're probably not going to respond or they'll say no. So you wouldn't want to keep pursuing that because maybe it's not the right fit. So if you really understand the store and what they have, then I think that's also really important.
Okay, that's amazing. So you're buying for Barney's right now. I have two questions that are like sort of the same. Do you, or sort of in the same vein, maybe is the best way to put it. The first question is, do you focus on primarily trend or not? And also, like, I want to hear about, like, what are some of your favorite trends that are coming up for this?
Oh, sure. Okay, so trend. Okay, so it's important to have trends and classic. What's very interesting about jewelry is that you have your core collection that lives on forever and never goes out of style. So a store may have one piece for a year or something before they sell it, and then it sells, but it just because it's been there for a year doesn't mean that it's out of style. But it's also really important to have the trends in your assortment and collection. So that's when I am seeing, okay, so I'm talking to the store managers, and it's also important for me to know what's happening on the street style at Fashion Month, also seeing what are influencers wearing, knowing the Instagram space and the social space, and then also on the runways, what are designers featuring with jewelry, because that's definitely going to trickle down. So then you take all of that feedback and insight, and then you can go to your designers and say, okay, I think this trend makes sense for you. Do you think you would add it to your collection with your same point of view? And then, or maybe, no, it doesn't make sense for anyone. So then you're scouring the earth to find a brand that does have that aesthetic.
Okay, cool. You talked a little bit about this before. I've heard you say it, but I'd love to hear your view on this. Like, how do you push designers to kind of see your point of view if you're like trying to get them to do a trend piece and they're resistant? Like, how do you kind of get them on board with that?
I know. Usually, sometimes there's definitely pushback, and usually they do end up taking the feedback into consideration and actually implementing it. So I think just working with them, making them feel comfortable, letting them know, okay, the sales associates are getting asked this every single day, and we would love for you to be the go-to person. So I think really just working with them, making them feel comfortable, pushing them as far as you think that they'll be pushed, and then know when to step back and then come back and say, okay, but we really want you to do this trend. Yeah. So I think that no one wants to be pushed out of their comfort zone, but we as a store and the employees at the store, at these luxury retailers, have such experience, years of experience, and also insight that when you're a brand or a designer, maybe you're so siloed into your own world and line that it's hard to kind of see through the woods. So if you just trust and try and implement it, and you'll probably be glad that you did, and it will benefit both parties.
Okay, awesome. What are some of your favorite trends that are coming up for this season?
Well, it's still all about the ear.
Yes.
It has been for a couple seasons now. So still statement earrings, which not necessarily for daytime. So that's great for going out. And then it's so much about the hoop, all about the hoop. So having a variety of price points and a variety of sizes, thickness, all of the things. Everyone is wearing hoops right now.
All about the hoops. I love it. They're back.
Yes, that has been going on for a year. And then colored stones people are into instead of just white diamonds, and also rose gold and black diamond people are buying into. So definitely about the ear, but then also people are asking for cuffs and different bracelet options and necklaces. So it's really about layering. I mean, it depends on the person. If you are if you like dainty jewelry that's layerable and stackable rings, or if you're going to go for the large statement earrings or hoops, the mismatched pair of earrings. So there's so much happening right now, and you can even one day be the big statement earring girl going out on the town, and then the next day, the dainty stackable rings, or however you want to mix it up.
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing that. I know that's going to be helpful with the designers who are curating their fall and then even spring collect. Do you see that some of those trends going into spring?
Yeah, definitely. And then we're about to have Spring 19 Fashion Month. So we'll really be able to see what's happening. And also, I'm excited to see the street style at Fashion Month and what's on the runway so we can really pinpoint and figure out what's happening in the jewelry space.
Oh, I'm excited for that too. I can't wait to do a recap with you after, because you're going to be, in the trenches with that. So I have just one more question for you, and then I'd love to hear about where people can find you. So if you were to pinpoint some of the biggest mistakes that you see designers make when they're reaching out to a buyer for a store like Barney's, what would that be in your experience?
Okay, so biggest mistakes would be not quickly, within 5 seconds, being able to find the information that we need. Mm-hmm. And then I think also just in terms of a website, it's really important, especially for your customers. Sometimes if we're reviewing a brand and we can't find the line sheets or whatever it is, and we go to their website and it's difficult for us if they just have collection or something or lookbook, but they don't have the prices. So that's not a good experience for the buying team that's trying to review your brand, but also the customer. If they're trying to shop your site and there's no prices or an easy site to navigate, that's not going to be a good user experience. So I think that's important to remember when designing your site. Another is what I find a lot, unfortunately, when I'm reviewing line sheets is not seeing a strong point of view. So I see brands and I can pinpoint, oh, that's this brand. That's inspiration from this brand. And it's kind of like copies. That doesn't help anyone. And it's really frustrating to the retailer. And that's an immediate no. And it's, of course, going to be frustrating to the brand that is the similar vein. So that's another reason why having such a strong point of view, and when your customer thinks about it, when the retailer, and if they see a piece, whether it has your logo or not, they need to say, oh, that's that brand. I can see it. Or if someone is wearing it in a picture and maybe it's not tagged, you would know that is the brand. But all these copies and having your collection all over the place. A lot of line sheets I see are 80 pages, and it's everything you could have ever come up with before, So I think there's lots and lots of mistakes being made, unfortunately, but that's when I try and tell the brand, okay, I really need you to tell me what are your key pieces? And then you should probably take away a lot of these styles that are pretty generic and just anyone can kind of create.
Okay, that was amazing, amazing feedback. So thank you for that. And I want to highlight a few things. Innovation in design, having a really strong point of view. This is something that we teach in our Laying the Foundation course, which is so important, that design point of view or signature style, as we call it as well. Having a website that is easy to navigate, that has prices that make sense, and that your buyers can see what your brand is all about. That's representing your brand focus. And there were so many other brilliant nuggets, but those two just shouted out at me, because those are the two things I feel like I am saying a broken record all the time, which is awesome. So Delia, thank you so much for being here on the show with me today. This was an awesome interview. And I know you're up to some fun things. You have your own podcast and you're doing some stuff with your mom. In addition, I don't know how you do it all, girl. So tell us a little bit more about some of your other projects.
Yes, I'm so excited. So my mom and I have a brand. It is a media company called The Style That Binds Us. And we have a YouTube channel, podcast, and blog. So everything can be found on thestylethatbindsus.com. And then on Instagram and social channels, I'm at Delia Folk, DELAAFOLK, and then at The Style That Binds Us.
Amazing. Well, thanks for being here today. We'll definitely have links to your Instagram and your YouTube channel and everything else here on the show notes. And you're just amazing. Thanks for being here, Delia.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've been listening to your podcast and loving it.
Oh, thanks, honey. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Thrive by Design today. It has been my pleasure to bring the show to you. Make sure that if you are interested in really upping your game, getting your website working for you as your number one sales tool, being able to leverage everything that the power of online marketing really has to help grow your business, whether you're selling your products offline or on, come join us for SOS. It is an amazing program. You can apply today by heading on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/SOS. And we'll also have links to do that over in the show notes. And then make sure that you give some love to our guest today, Delia Folk. You can find her on Instagram at The Style That Binds Us or at Delia Folk. And make sure that you subscribe to her YouTube channel. You're going to love what they have to offer. They're going to be talking about trend and styling advice. And I know that you guys are always asking about trends, so make sure that you check them out. All right, I'm going to sign off till next time. This is Tracy Matthews. See you later.